Hey y'all, welcome back to Chip Stock Investor. This is part two of my review of Nvidia's GTC Autumn 2022 event. Part one talked about the video game segment, some of the issues that have been going on at Nvidia because of that. They've had to reduce inventory of their old chips because they just announced the new high-end video game chips just the other day. That should be a big benefit for Nvidia going forward now in that gaming segment that has been dragging down the business. But there's a lot more to Nvidia than just video game hardware. And so that's what this video is about. What else did Nvidia talk about this week at GTC? Well, in short, they talked about a lot. So I'm just going to sum it up in one or two brief sentences here. Nvidia is pretty much becoming the go-to platform for building AI. It's because I think the decade where, albeit very powerful, but by and large very cookie cutter cloud software is not the best business model going forward for AI. That's because every business is unique. Every business operation is very unique. Their data that they have is very unique. And so therefore, they're going to need a very unique solution to build the AI that they need. And to do so, they need to start with the hardware itself and then build the software on top of that using their unique set of information. And that's what Nvidia is doing. Everything from your general purpose data center to things like self-driving cars, robotics, might be a robotic assisted surgery system, or it could be a roving bot around fulfillment center, like an Amazon fulfillment center. It could also be robotics in a factory, manufacturing cars or other types of parts. It's really, really broad. No matter what industry it is, AI has the potential to make operations more efficient. And Nvidia is building the hardware and then building a whole stack of software on top of it to help companies all over the world and all industries unlock the power of AI. So in a nutshell, Nvidia is doing a lot of things. It's becoming the foundation for this whole industry. There were some really interesting announcements they made specific to this. One of them in particular that I thought was interesting is what they're calling GDN, or Graphics Delivery Network. Now, that may sound similar to a CDN, Content Delivery Network. That's basically internet infrastructure. So somewhere out there, when you click on a link in the internet, that information, that website that you've requested information from is stored in a data center somewhere. And you make the request, and that information gets delivered via the internet's infrastructure and delivered to you on your computer. But the internet is getting more complex. More of the applications that we use via the internet, some of the websites themselves, a lot of people play video games on the internet using the internet. It's very graphics heavy. And so that requires much more complex internet infrastructure. And so that's where Nvidia is introducing the GDN, Graphics Delivery Network. So this company is even embedding itself in the very fabric of the internet itself, the 3D internet, or the metaverse. I think that's the most simple, elegant description I've heard yet of what the metaverse actually is. It's just a 3D rendering of the internet. Nvidia is there helping enable it. So is the stock a buy now? Take a look at this slide here. What I'm showing you here is a breakdown of Nvidia's quarterly revenue. You can see there the very top line. You can see the gaming segment. You can see the big drop off in Q2 fiscal year 2023. That's the quarter that just finished up. It's fiscal year 2023 because Nvidia's fiscal year ends in January 2023. But you can see the big drop in gaming here, over a 30% drop year over year, way down off of the peak in the first quarter of this year. However, take a look at data center right below that. Now far and away Nvidia's largest segment, growing over 60% year over year in the last quarter. And that pace doesn't look like it's about to slow anytime soon, especially not with that GDN that they just announced. A bunch of new chips are coming out aimed at AI in the data center. They announced new chips also for professional visualization. Those are for professionals that maybe make video games or are involved with the movie industry. New chips for that. Automotive, that's a business that CEO Jensen Huang continues to say they believe is their next $1 billion a year business. Auto is well on track to hit that. So the gaming segment basically could disappear, and I think Nvidia's long-term growth prospects are still intact. Granted, like I have said in my articles before, this stock is really only a buy if you have that long-term vision. It's going to continue to be bumpy, I think, especially in the next 6 months. I don't know where this stock is going to bottom, but I don't think Nvidia is dead. I've heard some media pundits, maybe you've heard some other media pundits say that as well, and that's just silly. This is a company that has $17 billion in cash on hand on its balance sheet. They have less than 10 billion in debt. So net of debt, they have 7 billion in cash. They're just fine. The stock isn't cheap at this point after it has fallen so far from its highs. It's still trading for about just over 50 times trailing 12-month free cash flow. But that includes the last quarter where they had to offload all of those video game chips on the cheap, and their free cash flow took a huge dip. So I think the stock at this point might artificially look a little bit more expensive than it actually is. But the long and the short is, I believe it's time to start taking a little nibble at Nvidia stock again if you plan on holding for the next decade. This company has a ton of long-term potential. Like I said, I firmly believe the business model underpinning the AI industry has to change. It's not going to rely on the cloud delivered model that was developed over the last decade. I think it needs to rely on a brand new model where companies customize their operations for AI, and Nvidia is helping businesses do that. I think this is a great company for the long term. Again, it's going to be a really rocky road, especially in the next 6 months. But after some of the updates that they provided at GTC, my personal conviction has been reinforced in this company. And so I'm a buyer of this company again. And I think you should probably give it a look again too, if you have a very long-term outlook, and be patient too. Don't go and buy a huge position in it all at once. I think dollar cost averaging into a stock like this has a lot of benefits. So keep that in mind when you're giving Nvidia a look. Thanks everyone again for tuning in to Chip Stock Investor. I'm Nick Rossilillo. Make sure you like and subscribe. We've got more updates coming on the chip industry. Later this week, we have Qualcomm and their Automotive Investor Day. There's going to be a lot of exciting news from that. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon.